Hello again. I was browsing an NHS website yesterday. I know it's really sad what old people get up to when they're in their homes, but there we are. I was browsing an NHS website and I came across a piece directly addressed to me, which was surprising. It was entitled, Dear White People in the UK. I'm a white person in the UK. And it seemed to suggest that racial prejudice in this country is a problem specifically concerned with the way that white people think and behave. I give a link to this in the description to this video, and I hope that viewers will be sure to follow tip number 5, which is simply be uncomfortable. We're not told how we should be uncomfortable or how we ought to go about accomplishing this, but it puts me in mind a little of religious penances. I knew a devout Catholic once who made a pilgrimage with pieces of sharp gravel in his shoes so that he would feel uncomfortable all the time he walked. It was a way of mortifying the flesh. I suppose that we are being urged to do similar things to atone for our guilt as white people. As long as we're uncomfortable, we know that we're in the right frame of mind. But hang on, I seem to hear viewers say, what about black people and those whose origin is in the Indian subcontinent? Don't they ever display racial prejudice? Indeed they do, as anybody who has lived and worked with real people will know perfectly well. Racial prejudice, which is exceedingly unpleasant and to be avoided if humanly possible, is not confined to any particular ethnic group. It is one of those things which transcends all national, ethnic and religious boundaries and may be found in every corner of the world. In Britain, the idea that only white people might harbour racial prejudice is little short of incredible, although it is becoming increasingly accepted. I mentioned the other day the Indian man I knew who suffered from angina and had to be hospitalised after his daughter picked up with a black guy from Jamaica. There was a sequel. His other daughter started dating a Muslim. Obviously something weird was happening in the family. They were Gujarati Hindus. For both girls to behave like that, there was something strange. But the fact is that in most Hindu families in Britain, the idea of a daughter going out with a Muslim or a black person would be shocking. I mention this because one of the litmus tests for racial prejudice in Britain has traditionally been, would you like it if your daughter went out with a black man? I've never personally understood this, I have to say. I can't imagine what business of mine it would be if my daughter hangs out with a black guy or shacks up with him or even marries him. But there it is. A lot of people would object. They are not all white. At least a similar proportion of Indian Hindus in this country would also fail that particular measure of racial prejudice. Many black Africans would object to their daughters dating a West Indian. A lot of Africans feel that they are superior to people from the Caribbean. At the same time, many Jamaicans, and I say Jamaicans because Jamaicans tend to be a bit more stuck up than a lot of Caribbean people. Many Jamaicans think that they are better than Africans. And I've heard Caribbeans make the sorts of jokes about cannibals and people with bones through their noses when talking of Africans, which would not be out of place in a white working man's club in the north of England. I've heard things said that are so, shocking to me that I've actually objected when I've heard Caribbeans speaking like this, which has just provoked laughter. Then there's the P word, a common abbreviation for Pakistani. This is not a word I've ever used in my life, but almost every black person I know has used it in a casual way. Talking of P-word shops, for instance. Don't even get me started about Jews who talk about their daughters marrying out, as it is known. A myth is being artfully constructed that racism and racial prejudice are something created by white people, and that if only white people can make me feel uncomfortable, as the NHS Guide for White People suggests, then the problem will be solved and racial prejudice eradicated. This is, as I think most people watching this will know, absolutely nuts. Have the people peddling this myth never heard of honour killings? Do they really not know that some Muslim and Sikh families literally kill daughters or sisters who wish to pick up with a boy of a different religion or ethnicity? It's quite true that some white families might raise their eyebrows or even voice strong objections to a female relative dating a black man, but I have never in my life heard of a white girl being murdered by her family for doing so. This trend of blaming white people exclusively for racial prejudice in society is increasing, and whenever you see the phrase check your privilege, it is code for somebody trying to put across this new myth. I, for one, know that this idea is utterly false, and so too, I think, do many other white people. Rather than point out this nonsense, though, a lot of white people are being guilt-tripped into feeling cowed and ashamed by such accusations, and it's often easier to go along with the notion rather than point out that it is nonsense.